When a lot of people imagine the greatest PlayStation 2 games ever, they will usually say Ratchet & Clank, God of War, Shadow of the Colossus, and Sly 2 in particular. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's debatable, but I personally think that Sly 2 Band of Thieves is the best game in the series. It has great gameplay, great combat, great stealth, a memorable cast of characters, and a fun story which kicks off really strong and maintains a really good tone throughout, which builds up to a phenomenal climax. So 2 years after the defeat of Clockwork, Sly and his friends discover that his mechanical body parts are being displayed in a museum in Cairo. Desperate to recover and destroy them, they reach the museum and discover that the Clockwork parts have already been stolen. Sly is then confronted by Carmelita, now voiced by a different voice actress. I have to admit, I liked her Latina accent better as it fit the character, but her new American accent is alright. The voice actress is pretty good, and she even voices Carmelita's new partner, Constable Neela. So Neela drops a subtle hint that a rival gang of thieves known as the Claw Gang could have been responsible for the theft. So Sly then has to track each of them down and steal back the Clockwork parts before they can be used for evil. It's a pretty good setup, and I love the characters that we meet along the way. There's Dmitri, a French iguana who has a hilarious speech pattern as he learned English as a second language through hip-hop videos, Rajan, who is an illegal spice trader from India, the Contessa, a professional hypnotist and corrupt Interpol warden, Jean Bisson, an arrogant Canadian lumberjack with aspirations of clear-cutting the entire North, and finally Arpeggio, a flightless parrot and egomaniacal leader of the Claw Gang. There are 8 story chapters in the game, which is awesome, and this means that 3 of the bosses appear in 2 chapters apiece. That's always great since it extends the gameplay length, but it does give us a chance to get to know the characters. Sort of. Some of them are a little bit underdeveloped, but as a whole, the voice work is really well done and much better than the original. The lip sync and animation has significantly improved as well, and the intro and outro cutscenes for the missions are animated much better when compared to the first game. Sly 2 beautifully maintains a comic book motif, and it's very committed to its presentation. There are even cartoon sound effects bubbles that appear when enemies are defeated, which is a nice touch. The gameplay takes a massive step up, and really improves on every element. The core gameplay is pretty much the same. Sly can still perform all of his special moves, along with some new abilities. Instead of the constant linearity of the original, this time, chapters are set in large open hub worlds that are beautiful and rewarding to explore. Clue bottles make a return, and there are 30 in each level. Some of them were really well hidden, and I would usually spend several minutes searching every corner of the map. When you do find all of them, you can locate a safe which will give you a special power-up. Enemies are much better, and they constantly patrol the hub, which puts much greater emphasis on stealth. Sly can perform a powerful finishing attack on enemies that are unaware of his presence, and the overall combat is significantly better. Thankfully, you have a health bar this time, so there are no more one-hit deaths, and when you do fight enemies, you get locked in a combat stance so you are always facing them. Coins are used as currency rather than extra lives, and you can obtain them through breaking objects, defeating enemies, or by pickpocketing valuable items from their back pockets. In each level, the gang has a safe house where you can regain health and sell your stolen loot to buy even more power-ups. This is also where you can switch between characters. That's right, both Bentley and Murray are playable this time, and they have their own special movesets and abilities. Murray is a capable fighter who can deal more damage, and he can even pick up objects and knock out enemies to throw them. Bentley, on the other hand, is weak in combat, so he mostly relies on technology to give him an edge. He can drop bombs to destroy machinery, and he can fire sleep darts with his crossbow while looking through his binocucom. The characters all control really well, and the gravity is perfect, which makes the experience really smooth and responsive. In each chapter, the layout of the missions is pretty much the same. You start off as Sly as he takes recon photos, you play through a first set of jobs of which there are usually 3 or 4, and then there's a final set before you pull off the main operation. In between these sections, Bentley presents the objectives through a slideshow presentation, and even though these are a bit unnecessary, they are still enjoyable to watch. The variety of gameplay is very diverse, but it never feels out of place. Some of these include RC helicopter segments, and a twin-stick shooter minigame where you have to hack terminals. All of these elements fit in with the theme very nicely, and even the environments are beautifully detailed. The overall soundtrack is amazing and fits the levels perfectly. Peter McConnell is the music composer, and he does an incredible job with the score in the series. He's also known for his soundtrack from other games such as Grim Fandango, Psychonauts, Calling All Cars, and several LucasArts Star Wars games. If I had a few issues, I would say that a few missions are a bit frustrating and unfair, but they weren't enough to ruin the experience. While the first 3 boss battles with Dmitri, Rajan, and the Contessa were all great, I felt that the fight with Jean Bisson was seriously lacking and tiresome. Finally, Arpeggio. What a miserable bastard. Talk about wasted potential. He was built up to be such a great character over a short amount of time as he worked to betray the other members of the gang for his own selfish needs, but then he just gets killed off in the most anticlimactic way before Neela takes over the Clockwork Frame and announces herself as Clockla. She's not even that great of a boss, to be honest, and it was so silly that I just couldn't take it seriously. Despite that, I still love this game. It really is timeless, and everything about it from the gameplay, level designs, and the characters make it an absolute joy to play. I've spent several hours on it, and I know I will definitely return to it several more times in the future. It is really a must-own.